What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Sports Scramble podcast. I'm your host, Chet, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Tyler, Jacob, and Wade. How y'all doing today?
Oh,
Could be
we've been
better.
better. We've been better.
Yeah,
A little bit of a loss hangover, I guess, if you will.
Yep.
yeah. For anybody that I know, Jacob's on his high horse with Penn State, take it down Purdue. But for anybody that follows LSU football, you know the three of us are. It was a little harder to wake up this morning after watching that roller coaster of a game. Might have to go get my blood pressure checked after they're going to cause me like heart disease or something. But we'll jump into the LSU game later on to the show. But we wanted to let everybody know that the show is brought to you by Old City Sports Network, and we have a new sponsor wearing the shirt right now, Buffalo Bayou Brewing Company here in Houston, Texas. I got a cool little can if everybody can see it. It's the
Hey,
Lighten Up.
lighten up. We need to lighten up as fans, you know?
Exactly. It's a crisp brew that you can enjoy with your college football Saturday, and maybe it'll help you, like Wade said, lighten up when you're watching the game. But they got a variety of flavors, and we're happy to work with them. Sometime maybe in October when we have a big game going on, we'll be doing a live show from the brewery. We can get all the guys back, and maybe like Tyler said, when the World Series are happening, maybe we can do a little preview for that and get a live show over there at the brewery. And we're actually working with them to do a giveaway, so you can win one of these shirts. All you have to do is go over to our podcast page on Apple Podcasts and leave a review. Let us know what you think, and in a few weeks, I'll go through and I'll pick a random review and I'll send them a shirt. But I did want to start reading some reviews that we've gotten on the podcast since we appreciate them all. This review is from Severio with 7 O's, so interesting username. It's titled Great Show with 5-star review. And it's a shout out to NASCAR Neil. It says NASCAR Neil might just be my hero. So Neil, if you're watching, you have some fans out there. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and kick it off with Wade's got a big volleyball match tonight. So how are we
right.
feeling tonight? How's the team looking? How's the season going?
Yeah, it's been a while since we talked volleyball, on the beach. And so I had a lot of hype going into the season. Hasn't quite come to fruition yet. We are 0-3. Haven't even won a set yet. So that's the goal tonight, is to win a set. You have to win 2 out of 3 sets to win the match. I keep calling them games, but that's because I'm a noob. But hopefully we can get a set win. We're playing another team that is winless. They have a few more points than us in the standings, but I think we could give them a scare today. We lost to a bunch of 60-year-olds last week.
That's rough.
But they did not miss a ball all day, and you had to volley it like 8 times on them to finally get a point. And they have the best point differential in the league, so we definitely slept on the seniors, if you will. But it's a good time. It's fun. It's sure doesn't feel like you're in Baton Rouge. It feels like you're on a beach in Tampa playing volleyball. So it's a good little weekly escape from the work week. And they got a fun bar, tiki bar. So that's always a good thing. And yeah, who knows? Maybe we'll get in the win column tonight.
Where are the matches taking place at?
They are taking place at Mango's Beach Volleyball on Sherwood Forest Boulevard. So
Yeah. So if you're in Baton Rouge, you can come check out Wade tonight. I hear he's wearing a Speedo for tonight's match to bring him some luck. Maybe he'll give a little extra inches in his vertical so he can start spiking the ball.
And he doesn't know it yet, but our one of our loyal listeners, Lyndon Braswell, will be coming to a game next week. He'll be in Baton Rouge for the LSU Career Fair Monday night, so he'll have to come watch me play.
There you go. We'll get Lyndon out there to give us his takes on the game and what Wade's looking like out there. If he's just like blowing stuff up our butts, thinking that he's a good volleyball player.
I'm not a good volleyball player.
He's sitting the bench. So, but we can go ahead and I guess recap our little 3-team parlay we did. I don't think any of them hit. Tyler, you remember the teams off the top of your head?
I believe Arkansas hit at 6. I think.
Yes. Yeah. So by 7.
Yeah, we had Arkansas.
Yeah, they won by 7.
We had Arkansas to cover. So
I think obviously LSU didn't cover and not even win the game, and then TCU. I knew that I was back and forth on that one. Colorado is just not a good football team this year, and TCU with Sonny Dykes is looking like a threat in the Big 12.
Yeah, so it's It was a rough one for week one
For
sports
all of
scramble
us in
picks.
betting.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's week one. We're trying to figure it out. We're new to the picks. So, but we've got a week two parlay, and that's brought to you by righteousfelon.com. Head on over to Righteous Felon to get that jerky fix. I've got some on the way. And they've got all sorts of flavors. They've got some like Carolina ghost pepper flavor. I didn't
No,
order
don't mess
that
with
one.
that, man. Oh
Yeah.
goodness.
I didn't want. I figured I'd be like crying, have need milk, just sweat pouring out everywhere. So,
I
but I
think I
got
could
some.
do it though. I ate one raw before, so I might as well try the beef jerky. It'll at least be complimentary.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you're from Carolina, so it's only right. We'll have to send you a bag. But if you use code OCSN Wade, you can get 15% off that Carolina Reaper jerky.
All
So,
right.
but so to kick it off for our week two parlay, we're taking USC at -9 versus Stanford. Tyler, how do you feel about that?
This is very confident. Usually Stanford, pulls off an upset. We talked about on Coast to Coast a couple of hours ago that Stanford last year beat an Oregon team that really had some preseason expectations last year. And then a couple of years ago, back when Pete Carroll was coaching USC, the same USC team was coming in here as the number 2 team in the country. Stanford was not a very good football team. That was whenever Jim Harbaugh was there, but the way that USC look, the offense of Caleb Williams and the newcomers of Jordan Addison, I think this is an easy cover. I think USC wins this 1 by 10. Just too much talent on both sides.
Yeah, USC put up a lot of points last week. The one that I wasn't I was a little iffy on, but I think Tyler, you convinced me, was Alabama covering at 20.5. And the spread might change as the week goes on, but I mean, Texas didn't look all that impressive. I mean, it's Alabama. I fully expect them to come out swinging. Is it in Austin?
Yeah, it's in Austin.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can't really ever bet against Nick Saban and company in these type of games. Alabama usually always, gives you your money back. Texas, I mean, they're getting all the hype that they're back and all, but we're going to find out this Saturday that Alabama is still the real deal with Bryce Young. And then Texas and Quinn Ewers. I mean, I said the key of the game, if Bijan Robinson can't get it going, then this is going to be a long day for Texas. And I think Alabama is going to win this one like 49-20.
Yeah. And then the last one would be Florida with the 5-point spread over Kentucky. Florida looked a lot better than I thought they would against Utah. They had that last second comeback. It was a crazy game with the Utah throwing an interception there in the end zone to kind of to whittle their chances away. But what do you think Florida's going to cover? Wasn't Kentucky's star running back suspended for the first game? Is he playing this week?
I think he's suspended for 2 games.
Yeah, he's suspended for the first 2 games. Kentucky's offense didn't look that great against Miami of Ohio. They were leading. I think they were leading at the half, like 13-10. It was a very close ball game for the first half. But I think Florida, the main concern is there going to be a letdown in this game? High emotions coming off of the top 10 win. But I think that Kentucky's not the team that I thought they were going to be this year. I think that Florida and Tennessee are going to be the teams battling out for the number 2 spot in the SEC. So I think Florida is going to be a 9-win team. I think that their expectations really changed for me in just one game because Utah was a team that I was high on.
Yeah, I mean, Utah came into the swamp ranked number 7, and Florida was able to get it done. It was a little bit of a sloppy game, but hey, they got the win. That's all that matters. So yeah, but this week's parlay is brought to you by Righteous Felon Jerky. Like I said, use code OCSN for 15% off your jerky needs. And if you get the Carolina Ghost Pepper, let us know how it tastes, if Wade can handle it. But I'm just going to go ahead and we're going to go into college football, but I'm going to let Mr. Jacob have his moment with Penn State. We all picked Purdue to beat Penn State.
Yeah, sorry, bud.
Penn State proved us wrong. So Jacob, go ahead. We're giving you 30 seconds to break down.
My 30-second spotlight?
Yeah.
No, give him a minute.
No, we'll give you a little longer. But yeah, what did you think of week 1 with Penn State?
Well, they came out of the gate, and I thought that it was going to be more of the same old Penn State, run the ball on first and second down, and then hopefully on third down get a first down. And for the majority of the first quarter, that's kind of how it was. I think what's going to help Penn State get through the season is defense. You have a lot of experience on the defensive side of the ball. Joey Porter Jr., Joey Porter's son, who played for the Steelers, is in the secondary there and had a big fumble recovery to help out there in the third quarter. So, I mean, It's one of those things. It was a battle of two veteran 6-year quarterbacks. I think Aiden O'Connell is the better quarterback than Sean Clifford as far as skill goes and where he normally is on the field at the time. He knows where he is. But I think as far as weapons go all around, I think Penn State has the weapons as far as receivers and tight ends go. I heard a story about they were talking on the broadcast about how they had visited with Penn State's tight end room coordinator, and they kind of made the statement that this is the best tight end room they've seen in a very long time coming out of Penn State. And I said, that's saying a lot.
That does say a lot.
For a younger, considering Mike Gesicki was arguably the best tight end that Penn State's ever had and playing for Miami now. But it's crazy to think that that's what they think. I mean, you see Noah Cain transfer out, go back home to Louisiana. It was a big loss. And, I mean, you had Nick Singleton, who's the Gatorade player, rookie of the year to come out of college or come out of high school and be like that dominant back and was ranked number 1 and had a decent game. But I was surprised at how well the passing game worked in the second half. And, man, was it a battle. Came all the way down to last possession and scored a touchdown with under 2 minutes to go, and I was thoroughly surprised.
Yeah, y'all eked out a win there in the last minute. Our loyal listener, Matthew, was there. He was sitting in the suites. I don't know how he scored those tickets, but he told me when he goes to games, he's got to do it right. And he was pretty impressed with Purdue Stadium, with the blackout that they did. And he sent me a picture of the student section. Spans about 60 yards from like the middle of the end zone down to like the 40-yard line. So, I mean, it's he said it was a loud electric area. And then when Purdue had that pick six, which we thought would seal the deal, he said he thought, the place was going nuts. But, Penn State battled back and got that win. So who do they play next week, Futch?
Next week, they return home. They play Ohio. Ohio looked pretty good week 1. They got a win.
Yeah.
So they look pretty good. So I expect it to be a good game. I think Penn State being at home, first game of the year, I think there's going to be a lot of buzz around it. The thing I'm watching throughout the season is how long Sean Clifford stays the starting quarterback. He's battled injuries the last 3 years as a starter and hasn't played a whole season. You have a backup, Drew Aller, freshman coming in. They didn't redshirt him, which I was really surprised. Instead, they threw him in there as the backup, and he had one drive there to start the third quarter against Purdue, only because truth came out, Sean Clifford had some bathroom issues before the start of the third quarter. So he had to go out there and start the drive. So
he had to go get a change of pants there. He
pulled a Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
But Drew Aller looks good. He's 6'6". He's almost 6'6".
That's a big guy.
10 pounds. He's a big guy. So I expect him to be the bright future that Penn State needs in order to go deep into the season. So it's all about how long Sean Clifford's durability holds on for, I think, for Penn State.
Yeah, well, it's good to see your Nittany Lions getting a win week 1. A team that didn't get a win week 1, we're going to just go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off of our
We have
LSU
to own up
Tigers.
to it.
Yeah, there was a lot of hype coming into this game. Brian Kelly's first game. We're playing in New Orleans, playing in the Superdome. LSU rarely loses in New Orleans. Whole new team. The defense was supposed to be one of the top rushing defenses or run defenses in the country. There was a big question mark with the offensive line. We definitely saw that last night, considering Jaden Daniels was running for his life. I want to get y'all's take on Jaden Daniels' quarterback play. I thought he did a pretty good job, and he was kind of the reason why we stayed in until the last second. If without him, I think he was 236 of the 297 offensive yards he was responsible for, which another thing that's kind of sad is LSU had less than 300 offensive yards, but it showed on the field. So, Wade, what's your take on Jaden Daniels? Is he the QB going forward?
I think he's got to be the guy going forward, at least in the short term. I think that his dual threat capabilities were impressive. He improvised a lot. Sometimes maybe he ran right away or after a first read, but it's hard to complain when a guy's getting 8 or 9 yards on a rush, even on a busted play. So overall, I don't think he was I think he was a bright spot for our team, I guess, to keep it positive. And I'm kind of pleased that we just stuck with him the whole game because I did think he gave us our best shot. So maybe the quarterback competition wasn't as hard fought and close as we thought going into the season. Kind of seems like he was the guy all along. What I was disappointed in was our running back room. I mean, I don't know if we had 50 yards rushing as a team outside of Daniels, and that's over like 3 or 4 guys. I know that John Emery wasn't there, but, as Jacob said, Noah Kane was a big departure from Penn State, seemingly coming to LSU to be the guy or be the goal line back. And he did punch one in for a touchdown, but, I thought he was going to have 3 down back capabilities. I thought that we could have gotten some motion with Goodwin out of the backfield. We missed a lot of blocks on what should have been passing downs that Daniels had to run. So it just kind of looks sloppy. I mean, honestly, it's kind of how the game should have finished.
Yeah,
it was just a sloppy game. It was just kind of destiny.
I can't blame LSU's run capability too much in that game though, because Florida State's defensive line
they were pretty good.
ran the show. I mean,
we had no offensive line for them to run behind if you think about it. So
I mean, I could blink and Daniels was getting chased by somebody on the defensive line. So, yeah.
And I mentioned it before the show how I wished he would have taken, if his first guy was covered, I kind of noticed he would just tuck it and run, but y'all brought it to my attention. He didn't have enough time to look at another wide receiver. And I think a lot of those times, Kayshon Boutte wasn't his number 1 wide receiver, and that's why Boutte was so frustrated because he wasn't getting the ball. But first, like the second play of the game, they throw a touchdown pass to him, which, I know it was a hard catch. It was a little underthrown. He drops that ball, and then the next possession, he gets basically hit in the back of the head with a football. I mean, doesn't even turn around to catch it. So, I mean, Tyler, what do you think? You think Boutte sticks it out for the rest of the season, or with the whole deleting his Instagram, deleting his Twitter, is he done for, and he's just going to leave the team?
I have no idea what's going on in that man's head, to be honest with you. But going back to Jaden Daniels, I think he was fine. I mean, he showed why, he wanted to transfer in. I think we, us LSU fans understand now that why he got the job, because his ability to, escape from the pocket, because our offensive line is straight up garbage this season. And I said it in the recap and, in the season preview that I did on Gridiron Her Hooks, that this offensive line lost 5 offensive starters last year, like a guy like Austin Deculus, Ed Ingram, Liam Shanahan. And then you bring in, like a true freshman, Will Campbell. I know he's like a very good, tackle, but he's a true freshman. This was his, Florida State's defense line. It's going to be very concerning because whenever you have to face, the Alabama defensive line, the Texas A&M defensive line, the Arkansas, whenever you get into SEC play and you can't even block the Florida State defensive line, that's going to be a problem. I think it's just going to be the same story for this LSU offensive line. I mean, it's just going to be growing pains throughout the season. And then the running game just couldn't get going because, Florida State's defensive line was in the backfield literally every down. And I think we saw guys like Jack Best last year, get a lot of catches. I think he only had 1 or 2 receptions the whole entire game. So that's going to be a bit concerning once you get into SEC play as well.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily a huge fan of how they switched Best from a tight end to a wide receiver. I think he was a big mismatch as a tight end.
The tight end group for LSU is lacking at depth. We saw Mason Taylor, the true freshman that Brian Kelly has been raving on. But, you have Jack Mashburn, who's pretty much a blocking tight end, and then you have a former baseball player, Nick Storrs, as your third one. So I think that going forward, I think that I said it in my article that I wrote for the season preview. I wish they would listen to me sometimes, of, pushing Jack Best to the starting tight end. You have guys like Jeray Jenkins and Malik Neighbors. And then Kayshon Boutte, if he sticks around. So that's your starting 3 receivers. So I don't know. A lot of concerning on the defensive line, as well as with the injury of Mason Smith. He's likely to be out the year. I think it's just a torn ACL, the way that it looked. So that's going to be a big blow. And then Ali Gay, you're going to miss him for the first half of the Southern game for his targeting penalty. And the secondary, you just have to think. I was just thinking, what is the secondary going to do? They did fine. Mekhi Gardner, he got burnt on that
Yeah, he got burnt big time. At
on
that
that
point,
flea flicker,
tackle the wide receiver.
There's going to be some growing pains, but I don't know. My expectations just, I don't know, went from 8-win season to the possibly a 7-win ceiling. But this team is right now, the way that they're looking, is a 5-win or 6-win team.
Yeah, I don't want to give up on them too quickly. You know, first game under a new coach, new schemes, they just came out flat and never really got it started. And the saying rings true: special teams do matter, kickers do matter, as we saw last night with a blocked field goal and a blocked extra point to force the game into overtime. The blocking scheme on special teams was just non-existent. When you mentioned Mason Taylor, they got to teach that guy how to block. You'd think special teams block, extra point offensive line would be kind of ironed out in fall camp, which it should have been, but that led to the blocked extra point, and shoot, it almost went in. I thought it was going to go in there for a second with how hard that kicker kicked that field goal, and it was just an all-around whirlwind of emotion. We were out watching it. I was watching it with Big Mike last night. We score the touchdown on the last second. He throws me up in the air. We're high-fiving everybody, having a good time. And then it was just like a complete 180 to just silence at the bar we were at. Complete. You could hear a pin drop. And that bar cleared out pretty quickly after that. So,
but here's the thing. If you know anything about Brian Kelly and his time from being at Notre Dame, it's that Brian Kelly never has really had an offensive mind. He's a defensive-minded coach.
Yeah.
I mean, so was at Orgeron. I mean, they're the same way. He was more of a defensive-minded coach, but they had offense. And the only person that followed Brian Kelly from Notre Dame was their special teams coordinator. That was it.
And he might want to rethink that situation.
Yeah, and the thought was, to me, being in that game is. I knew that LSU would not be the same team that they used to be. It's going to be different. I said, I know Tyler and I talked about it. I said, this team is not going to look like LSU football at all. Mm-hmm. It will not. I mean, it's a change that people are going to have to get used to. And it's a guy who has no experience within that conference, coming into a conference that he's not familiar with. He hasn't played against Florida State since 2011 in the national championship game against Florida State?
Well, he actually played Florida State in last year's season opener when Florida State took them to overtime last year.
But
he had that quote at the end of it, was like, I want to execute my team of how awful they played.
But here's the thing: in 2011, they lost that game on the last play of the game. They lost that. They lost the game on the last play of the game on an offensive.
They lost it, but they lost it whenever they showed up. I mean, they just absolutely looked sloppy. I mean, I did you saw the change in the offensive play call, and LSU's offense was different whenever they ran tempo.
I don't understand why we didn't run tempo the whole time.
Yeah, it threw off Florida State's defensive line. They weren't able, to get pressure because Jane Daniels was either running it or he was, throwing quick throws to Jeray Jenkins or Brian Thomas. I also think Brian Thomas was another star in the making as well. But there's obviously a couple of positives, but a lot of negatives with this team. But this is going to be a rebuilding year. LSU fans just have to have that expectation. It's not going to be like a 10-win or 11-win season. It's going to be a season like the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think LSU fans as a whole need to kind of temper their expectations. We're never going to have 2019 again. It wasn't Coach O that led LSU to a national championship. It was Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. You could have, like you said before the show, Tyler, you could have coached the team, and they still would have went undefeated.
But you got to be careful because, with NIL being out there now, and you go lose a game in New Orleans, which is our recruiting hotbed, it's not that hard for these guys to skip out on Baton Rouge anymore.
I'm just saying we can't expect a 2019 season all of a sudden because we have a new coach. That was a proven winner at Notre Dame. I get that, but it's going to take some time, and I don't think they're ever going to get back to the level that, say, Joe Burrow played at. I think we have the potential to be good, but I'm not expecting 15-0 next year. Obviously not this year, but I think as a fan base, I understand they expect greatness. You pay a guy $10 million a year. Yeah, you want to win your week one game. But I saw some stuff from fans threatening players like that. Honestly, just get out of here with that. If you're a fan of LSU football, you shouldn't take to Twitter to threaten these kids over a football game. I mean, they went out there, they tried their best, they played their best. They didn't get the win at the end of the day. So I hate seeing when fans. I mean, and who knows? It might not even be LSU fans. It may just be trolls on Twitter. But I think that was a big part of Malik Neighbors and Keishon Butte deleting all of their Twitters or Instagram. And I feel for Malik Neighbors. I mean, fumbling 2 punts like that. Now, granted, I did see a stat that Florida State didn't score anything off the 2 fumbled punts. It just ate away at clock and kind of took away the momentum.
Yeah, that was a miracle.
Yeah, I mean, the defense stepped up for us there and forced a fumble in a big way. But I think Malik Neighbors will bounce back and he'll have a good season.
The last thing I'll mention about LSU, these next 2 weeks for this season is going to be the biggest 2 weeks because they have Southern, which they should win, but I mean Southern's no slouch. They just put up 86 points against Florida Memorial, which I haven't even heard of. But I mean, 86. Yeah. If you score 86 points, it's 86.
It's impressive. Yeah, 86 points in college football game.
If Mississippi State, that first SEC game is going to really tell like how many wins this team can get. If they win, it's probably 7 wins, and if they don't, then I think it's going to just turn into a downward spiral because they do face like New Mexico the next week, but then, man, it like the October stretch of like Auburn, Tennessee, Florida, Ole Miss. I mean, right now the way that they're playing is 0-4 for me, but if they win against Mississippi State, then maybe that will change because honestly, if they don't win those, then you could see a empty Tiger Stadium by the end of the
season. Wade makes a good point with the whole NIL thing in New Orleans and Baton Rouge and everything. I mean, being close to home. I haven't been around SEC football very long, but I've been around long enough to realize that if you guys don't produce within 2 years, guys are going to jump ship.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna start losing recruits, players, everything.
The SEC. Yeah, I mean, they're going to go where the money is. I mean, let's face it. It's bigger than SEC football. It's bigger than Pac-12 or whatever it may be. And these guys are going to go where they can win games and where they can get good deals and put their name, image, and likeness out there. Of course. Yep. So LSU needs to be very careful about how they approach this season and next season. Because, I mean, some of your top recruits might leave and go somewhere else, and especially with Oklahoma and Texas coming into the picture soon.
Yeah, I definitely they've got to win because these kids are going to – I mean, it's life-changing money. Obviously, they're going to go where the money's at. But we won't spend too much time on LSU. I know we're LSU biased, and we could spend hours just talking about how terrible the game was and just depress everybody. But I do have a question. Our first question that's brought to you by NorseBeards.com. If you want your beard looking nice and thick, you can head on over to NorseBeards.com, enter promo code OCS for 25% off. Fletch is starting to regrow that stubble. He's getting there. Maybe we'll get him some beard oil.
Week 1 win, so he gets to keep it growing.
Yep.
Yeah, you can't shave your beard until Penn State loses. How's that sound, Fletch?
Yeah, that was the deal last week. I got too cocky and said it was going to be week 1, so he'll have to wait.
And we need a razor sponsor here for LSU.
Yeah, we'll have to start shaving our beard every time LSU loses. But if you head on over to NorseBeards.com, use promo code OCS, you can get 25% off your order. I used it. I've got some beard oil coming in the mail in a few days. We'll see how it goes. But first question, I wanted to open up to our debate topics because that's how we're going to start doing the show now. We've got all of our major analysis you can find on Southeastern Sports Talk with Wade and Tyler and College Football Coast to Coast with Jacob and Tyler. We'll kind of go more in depth. We want to kind of keep this like First Take, but better since we don't have Stephen A. Smith. First question I want to ask y'all: playing big week 1 games, primetime games, Sunday night. You got 2 Power 5 teams going at it. Like this year was LSU and Florida State. Last year, for example, LSU and UCLA. Florida State and UCLA both got to play a week 0 game. To kind of iron out everything. Where you got one team that's coming in first game, first real chance to prove what they've got. How do y'all feel about week 0? Do you think it should stay? Should they go ahead and just eliminate it and kind of level the playing field? I just want to see, Tyler, what's your take on week 0?
I mean, I'm not really going to complain that was solely the reason why that LSU won that game because, I mean, yeah, LSU could have played, scheduled a game like Grambling and like work out the kinks. So, what formation we have to do on special teams. That way we don't get blocked 2 times or, how can our offensive line do, against a Grambling? Because like all I saw, like all week was all LSU fans were like, oh, this offensive line is trash for Florida State. Well, I don't even think Jordan Travis got sacked one time. So
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know.
he had a lot of
yeah,
time.
the past 2 years, UCLA, I forgot who they played week one, but they absolutely demolished us in week one. I literally said, I'm going to temper my expectations because who knows what's going to happen. And boy, good thing I wasn't like all like trash talking like I was last year about the season opener because I would have got flamed. But just the same old story this year. And then they're going to have to play Florida State next year in Orlando. So I don't know if Florida State has a week 0 game or not. I have to check their schedule. But I think that week 0, it's fine. I mean, week 0 this year was pretty boring outside of Northwestern Nebraska. But I think tied into like the college football playoff expansion, week 0 is going to eliminate itself out because you're going to have more games. So I don't think the NCAA is going to want like 18 games in a week. That's just too much. I think they're either going to cut down on the regular season games, which I think they will have to anyways, but we'll get into that later.
So, Wade, what's your thoughts on week 0? Do you like it, or go ahead and cut it out and just everybody start week 1?
I think it's kind of gimmicky. I'd rather just everyone start week 1. I guess it gives Florida State the opportunity to have a second bye week, which could be good for player safety if we're talking about a longer season. But I don't know if they'll really change the structure of the schedule that much with the playoff expansion because you're going to have every team except for 12 teams, they're not going to be playing in the playoffs. So you're going to have to account for like 100 plus teams that are going to need that revenue and games. So I think you might see not necessarily like the current state of week 0. I think we'll see less of these kind of gimme games, but you might see, some more marquee matchups in a week 0 type situation. And then a team gets a bye week before gearing up for another tough stretch. So I don't think we'll see these tune-up games. I think that's the word I was looking for. I think it kind of takes the luster out of a big-time week 1 matchup if the teams had a tune-up game. So I think that we'll kind of see that cut out. But I think we'll see kind of a week 0 kind of situation where if you play a big game week 0 or week 1, whatever you want to call it, then maybe you get a bye week shortly thereafter to get ready for the rest of your season.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think if you've got a big, like a primetime game, if you've got one team playing a week 0, I think that other team should also be playing that week 0 because then it set aside our allegiance to LSU. Any common fan watching that game last night, that's a boring game to watch. I mean, you want to see two teams come out with a slugfest like Penn State and Purdue, or Notre Dame and Ohio State was a little slow, but it was a good game to watch because they were on the same level. I mean, it was just boring. It was slow football. I mean, our offense looked super slow and everything, but just as a common fan, you're like, well, this isn't fun to watch. I mean, Florida State looks great and LSU is just sluggish. So, Fudge, what's your thoughts on that? On week 0.
Yeah. I agree that week 0 should be done with. I think everybody needs to be there on the same playing field. I mean, forget about the coverage and whatever as far as, well, there's going to be too many games on week 1. Well, who cares? And put the games that people want to see on coverage and the rest of the games put on your whatever platform.
On ESPN Plus, yeah. We already got to pay for ESPN Plus to watch them all.
So I don't understand, but yeah, I feel like week 0, yes, I think it's gimmicky, and I don't like it. I'm not saying that's a reason why some of these teams lose their week 1 games because somebody played a week 0 game and they have experience and they've hit somebody. I don't think that's the case. I think some teams are just more ready than others. I mean, that clearly shows in week 1.
Yeah.
But I think going forward, I think week 0 needs to be done with, especially with what's to come in college football.
Yeah. The next question I've got for y'all, we see a lot of teams like Michigan and Ole Miss, they're flip-flopping quarterbacks each week to try to figure out who they're going to start. Me personally, I think you stick with a guy and you let him play until he screws up. I don't like this whole, okay, you start week 1, you start week 2, you start week 3. You build no chemistry with that QB. The offense doesn't really kind of get going. It's always your different scheme each time you go out there. So we'll start with Wade. What are your thoughts on flip-flopping QBs?
I think it can work at the college level for certain teams kind of as a momentum thing. But if I'm Michigan, there's no way I'm playing that game. I mean, you got playoff implications on the line. I know they kind of did a 2-quarterback system last year, and it did get them to the playoff, but I just wouldn't want to do that again. I think that McCarthy probably is your guy, but it was kind of weird that they went with McNair week 1, so maybe he's the guy after all. I don't know, but I think if you're in that situation, you don't do it. I think sometimes it's good to have, a mobile option down in the red zone, that sort of thing. But like I said during the LSU coverage, I was really pleased to see LSU, who really is amongst all teams that has quarterback controversy coming into the year. I mean, they're right up there with anybody. So you kind of saw how sticking with Daniels paid off, because at the end of the game, he led you on a 99-yard drive, showed that he could air it out as well. So I'm kind of in favor of sticking with the guy unless you know that you need that change of pace. Certainly if you're in playoff contention, I think you really got to stick with your guy. But, to each their own. Some teams it works out.
What do you think about it, Jacob?
I'm fine with it. I think it's all right at this stage of the ball game. I mean, you don't play anybody for the first 3 weeks, so do whatever the heck you want at that point. I mean, if you're Michigan, whatever. I mean, I don't feel like you should be making your decision based off of you playing a cupcake for the first 2 weeks. Just doesn't make any sense to me. But the only problem I would find with it is that if something happens, it is football. So let's say that, Michigan has their backup start this next game, and he mysteriously gets hurt, gets tackled or something. All of a sudden, your backup is hurt, and you have one quarterback.
That's a very good point.
I mean, that
You're
really
playing a risky game there.
Yeah, you are playing a very risky game at that point. It depends in certain situations, I think. If you go to the NFL level, I mean, the Saints did it with Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston, where they kind of ran a couple of different sets. Penn State,
Well, I think that's a little different because that's like a dual threat action based on the play call.
Yeah, I'm saying, well, if you want to use both quarterbacks like that, I get it. But starting week to week, that's a dangerous – you're playing with fire there, I think.
Yeah, that's a good point about the backup.
Yeah. I don't like it because, like you said, you're playing with fire for one, and then the team builds no chemistry.
How many times in college football have we seen a backup finish the season because a starter gets hurt?
Well,
right, exactly. What do you think, Tyler?
I mean, Michigan can afford to do it with just the 3 teams that they play with: Colorado State, Hawaii, and UConn. And if they're basing off of who does better, then it's going to be J.J. McCarthy, because Hawaii is not very good. They gave up 63 points to Vanderbilt in week 1, and then they got blown out by Western Kentucky 49-17. So, I mean, Michigan's probably going to put up 60 points, let's be honest with you. So it's going to be J.J. McCarthy if they're going to just base it off of those 2 games itself. So I think McCarthy is a better quarterback. McNamara obviously has experience playing in the big games of last year with Ohio State in the playoff game. But McCarthy is definitely going to be the guy for Michigan to have the better chance. What did you shake your head for?
Fudge doesn't like that. He thinks the other quarterback.
You wait on October 15th.
What, Fudge? What do you think about McCarthy? You don't like him?
No, I think he's too young. I think McNamara has the experience.
Freshman quarterbacks seem to be the new thing in college football now.
Well, Michigan has always gone the other direction with that. I mean, let's think about it. The last guy to ever do something like that was Tom Brady, and you see where he is now. I don't expect Michigan to go with a younger guy instead of McNamara. I think Jim Harbaugh knows what he's doing at this stage of the game. He's going to start McNamara. There's no way he starts J.J. McCarthy. I think he has to be the backup. He needs a little bit more time, I think. Yes, he played well when they played for the Big Ten championship and everything. I get it. But I think he's got to go with McNamara. There's no way he goes with somebody like J.J. McCarthy. You're wasting talent at that point.
Yeah, well, and he's kind of on there of a hot seat. His khakis are getting a little crispy if they don't win now. So
not necessarily.
Well, I mean, he's been there for a while, and he hasn't really done anything. He made the playoffs last year, but he got blown out in the first
Hey,
game.
you get another year if you beat Ohio State.
Here's the problem. Michigan looks at it from a money standpoint. Who's going to bring them a Jordan deal? Nobody
True.
else is going to bring a Jordan deal except for Jim Harbaugh. Let's
Yeah.
think about it. I mean, he has the connections. So there is big money being made there. And Michigan is not going to turn a chance down for big money. It's never
Yeah.
going to happen.
And I don't necessarily think he's a bad coach. I just think they've reached their potential. I mean, last year looked great, but that was what the first time.
Michigan a little.
Yeah, I think Michigan's a playoff team.
You think they're a playoff team this year?
I don't want them messing with two quarterbacks. You're a playoff team.
Yeah.
Don't do that. But
Michigan is Michigan was one step away from not making the playoff. I mean, that's the thing about it. They were on the fence for quite a while. I will agree with you on that point. But, I mean, that's the thing about the Big Ten. 1 or 2 games really swings you in or out. I mean, you're either done or you're going. I mean, that's really what it is. I mean, it's Ohio State and Penn State. Those are your other 2 teams. I mean, Tyler and I talked about how Iowa is a non-factor now because
let's talk about
score 7 points. You're good.
7 points without scoring even a touchdown. They had a
Can I
field goal
change
and
my
2
West
safeties.
pick to Wisconsin?
Yeah, we might be changing all of our picks for the conferences.
Wisconsin, Ohio State.
Yeah, I'm definitely rethinking
Northwestern, baby. Come on, Northwestern.
my pick of LSU making it to the playoffs. I think I was just thrilled, ready for football season to start.
You can hopefully
looking
not
like
back
our
that
playoff team is out too if Utah, unless they go undefeated the rest of the way.
So speaking of the playoffs, this week we had some news break, and actually Ross Dellinger talked about it on our show and kind of alluded to it. The College Football Playoff Committee has voted to expand to 12 teams by 2026. There's a chance it could happen in the 2024 season. I'm not 100% sure on what has to happen for it to happen early. But from what I read online, it looks like it's 12 teams. The first 4 teams get a bye. And there's a quarterfinals, semifinals, and then obviously your championship. And your quarterfinals, correct me if I'm wrong, Tyler, is played at your home stadium.
Well, I think the 5. So pretty much, let's say if you're the 5 seed and you're playing the 12 seed, the 5 seed will host at the campus game, which I love. I've been saying this for I don't know how many years. I mean, I've been literally proposing the same dang college football playoff. I literally did this like in one of my classes for graduate school.
Maybe somebody got a hold of that article and they're not giving you credit.
Just like my scheduling idea, man.
Yeah, just like
we might need to go after the College Football Playoff Committee for not crediting Tyler.
Yes, but I think it's a good thing for college football. If you think it's bad for it, then you can just GTFO. So I mean,
okay. From the catwalk.
Let's break it down. You got your 6, or is it your? What are the
it's
first
your
6 teams?
top 6 conference champions, which it should be. I mean, conference champions.
I like how they didn't assign Power 5 labels or anything because the sport's ever evolving. You know, like if the American's better than the Pac-12.
Yeah, we saw Cincinnati last year. So, I mean, you got your 6 top conference champions, and then the next 6 teams are they're selected. Yeah, so
we're going to see more like 10-2 teams now getting to the playoffs now.
And I think I was unsure on 8 or 12, but the fact that you're giving the first 4 teams a bye, I like that. It's then really you got 8 teams, and then
really what I've been saying.
Yeah. Now they talked about,
and you're all like, "Oh, that's a bad idea."
Well, I do.
Especially Jacob. I know he was like, I'm going to go after him right now. He went after me for years. Like, I don't think that they should host a campus game. And now he says on the Coast to Coast show, that's all of a great idea.
No,
people can change.
We didn't talk about campus games being hosted.
Well, what's your take on the campus games?
Yes, I did. I've been saying that. I've been saying that for years.
My thought was, I don't have anything against the campus games. That's fine. What it was against, I was more for it because you have so many more neutral site. Like everybody wants to play a neutral site game for the start of the season. Save the friggin' neutral site games for the end of the season. I mean,
I like that.
Yep, I agree. I mean, if you're gonna do like a true home and home, play it like at
play at your stadium. Yeah.
Play at your own home stadium. I'm sick of look at Georgia for case. Why didn't you just play it at Athens?
Because Chick-fil-A paid for that game. Allstate paid for LSU's game.
It was the most boring game
ever.
ever.
Pay for it in December. So,
well,
but
it costs a lot more in December.
I
than
mean,
it
if you're gonna
does
put
in
that like an
September.
Oregon, Georgia neutral site, like put that thing in Dallas or something. I don't know.
Tyler and I talked about like this as a whole, on coast to coast, and how I think, you're not going to have a gap anymore after you have your conference championship games to your bowl season. You're going to be playing football basically around the clock. Somebody's going to be playing. I think for the Northeast teams, you have a huge advantage if you are hosting.
Oh,
A
for sure, because you're
huge
playing in the
advantage.
elements there.
Yeah. So that's like Michigan playing a home game, snowing. I mean, if they're playing against let's throw
LSU, for
somebody in
example.
there. Yeah.
In the South, the LSU boys have never seen snow.
Yeah. They're like,
So
what do we do? And the football is like a boulder. It's hard as a rock. So I mean, anything can happen at that point. So I mean, I think in that sense, those teams have the advantage. I like it. I enjoy it. I think I mentioned that Tyler said my hot take with this whole thing. If they really wanted to shake it up now, this is what you do. You've got 11 people on that committee, that college football playoff committee, that sit in that lovely room and say, "Ooh, well, it's a secret meeting, and all 11 people have to agree on it, right? All 11 people have to agree. It has to be unanimous. You can't say, oh well, 10 of us agree, so." There it is, and it's tabled at that point if one person disagrees. So I think at that point you go scorched earth with the people on the committee now, because
bring in some new people.
All the
Mississippi
people
State's president is on the committee. Mississippi State hadn't been close to a playoff game in years. There's no reason he should be making decisions.
Oh,
all the people on the committee have
ties
to universities.
Yeah.
Every person on the committee. So this is what should happen. I think they need to get rid of it. You go how we apply for master's tickets and we go on there and say,
you should apply to be on the committee.
Apply to be on the committee. It's a lottery. You cut it off at the first, however many people decide they want to, be a part of it. And you basically do a lottery. Here's the deadline. Do a lottery. You pick 11 people to represent it for that year. Those 11 people make the decision. They might be a fan of another team, but at the end of the day,
so are you saying 11 random people, like fans, can get on this?
I'm talking 11.
Okay, that's interesting. Get some fans on the committee.
Yes. I'm saying, here's what are the chances? Somebody might be a fan of friggin' Western Kentucky, and they have no chance. That's the part of it. Nobody has ties. There's no money being involved. I hate to say it, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of money involved in those meetings too.
Yeah.
They're like, oh well, I might want to play this person next year because we're gonna get $3 million.
This sponsorship from so and so, and
get rid of it all. That way, everybody has an even slate. It's clean, and you just start with people making a decision, coming together. These are the best teams in the country based on who they've played. We have the AP poll ranking. And they're football fans, and they figure it out, and that's it. I just don't want people that are tied to different universities to be a part of something, to be a part of it. They're already a part of it. You're already getting paid all this money to be the athletic director for Mississippi State. Why do you need to be involved in something bigger than that?
So what I'm hearing is you're for the expansion.
Sure.
But you hate the committee. You think it should be random Joe Blows off the street that enter a lottery and let them make a decision. I like it.
Absolutely.
I don't know if I want the fans behind that, but all right.
Well, maybe like the sports writers, kind of similar to how they do the Heisman's voted on.
You mean to tell me that you trust the athletic directors from?
I would trust the four of us more than what they got right now.
Maybe it should be.
And what are we? And Tyler, what are we? What are the four of us?
I don't know. What are we?
We're not fans. We're sports media.
But I'll add one more thing about this playoff. I think it's going to help with the player opt-outs as well because, it all started with Christian McCaffrey opting out for the Rose Bowl. So now you get more meaningful. Well, now you get more. Yeah, he's also opted out for the last 2 seasons as well. But I think you're going to have more meaningful games, and whatever team make the playoff, ain't nobody's going to be opting out because you have a shot to win the Natty, and that's what you go to college for.
Yeah, well, that's what's great is you got the number 12 seed they might not have a great chance like they do in March Madness, upsetting a team.
Oh, yeah. You can be like the St.
Peters.
Peters.
You have a chance. Yeah, you have a chance to make it to the
Yep.
national championship.
I don't think the expansion will really help with that. I think that's purely a coaching thing and a program thing. You're not going to have guys opt out on Nick Saban, but you're going to have guys opt out from other programs because when they get recruited,
But you're in the playoff.
They're told they can do that.
Okay.
Why does it matter?
If
If
That's
a
not
player
like college
opted out
football.
when I'm in like in a playoff, like I would just say, give me your scholarship, get out.
They don't care.
If you are
Well,
a
it doesn't matter about the
9,
scholarship;
10,
they're
11, or
guaranteed
12
NIL
seed,
money.
You are
See, this is
if you are
why
19, 11, or 12 seed, you are going to opt out. There is no way that you're going to play against a team that is way better than you. These guys are going to opt out. If
Your
they
program
are,
either cares about that or they don't. I mean,
Right. Like, well, I like what you said. Nick Saban, name a time he's had anybody opt out. So, I mean, it comes down to a program.
I mean, these
fundamentally.
coaches need to just step up at some point. So you can't just be like, oh well.
And it's now with NIL playing such a big factor into it, they're gonna have to change the rules of you have to play the full season.
You know
to
what?
get your
As
money.
long as I get the new college football game, NIL can keep going. That's all I really care about at this rate.
I'm not saying I disagree with NIL. I just think that
I mean, NIL is great, but I'm just the culture of these college football players not wanting to play for a university and wanting to get their money is BS to me.
That's where it hits, and I don't think making the game more appealing or not is going to matter. I mean, you're talking about a guy like Keishawn Butte maybe leaving the team after a game. Like,
after having a bad.
You would never see that. And guess what? He wouldn't get rewarded 7 years ago, but he'll still be a first or a second round pick no matter what he chooses to do.
Well, you got guys like Miles Brennan leaving the team, but he still pockets all that money from NIL. So I think it's going to have to be changed to be
Something
based
needs
on
to be
performance. They're going to have to sign a contract. You got to play the games. Whether you transfer after the year, great. But if you play the 12 games you sign on for, that's when you get the money. It's like the NFL. If you don't play the games, I mean, if you get hurt, that's one thing. But if you hold out of a game, you don't get paid. You don't get your game check.
The difference is in the NFL. If you hold out and you don't play, the league views you as a quitter, and the GMs dislike you, and then you don't have a job. But in college football,
it's like
catered to this.
They like adore you, like, oh my gosh, you're my hero.
NIL seems like a poor man's signing bonus in college football. That's what
pretty
seems
much what it is, because it's fully guaranteed money, not based on any sort of performance. Well, we can open a can of worms on NIL. We might have to save that for another show, have that as one of our topics. But what I'm hearing is we're all for the college football expansion. I like the expansion. I don't think it needs to go to 16 teams. I feel like that's a lot.
64.
Just go. You know what? Scratch the regular season. Playoffs start now.
Whole season of playoff.
Yeah.
Fall madness.
I like the 12.
Go.
I like
the
March
Madness light.
Not the home and home. The first 4 teams getting a bye, then number like 5 through 9 gets a home game, and then the semifinals are in a neutral site, and then obviously the championship should not be a home game. It's a neutral site. It's a championship.
Yeah, and that's another thing. That's something that ticks me off, even when it's like March Madness. Said there is no reason why Georgia should be playing their semifinal game in Atlanta. Send them all the way across the country. My problem is that everybody's so like UCLA.
But if you're the number 1 overall seed, I mean, you go all that way, go undefeated. You have to have some advantage.
It's a neutral site game. It's supposed to be a neutral site game. So take them.
I mean, let's be real. Were we complaining that LSU played New Orleans?
So that's different. They won their playoff game, and there was no guarantee that they were playing in New Orleans. I mean, that was just the championship game was in New Orleans that year. I get that. Now, the thing with the playoff games, I think they do it right. They send them.
Well, they give them
LSU
a pick.
Played,
they give the number 1 seed like where they want to pick. Like say it's like the Sugar Bowl, Rose Bowl. Alabama is going to pick the Sugar Bowl since more of their fans will travel there.
I think
it's not necessarily Tuscaloosa.
See, this is where I disagree with you on that, because you got to give it's the number 1 overall seed. You got to give them some advantage.
They've earned
that advantage.
Yeah, but
they have a bye, and then they're going to play a team who's much less competitive than they are in the semifinal game. My problem is
I think they do it just fine.
All these teams.
If you hate about, just go back to the BCS of all things. And
no, we don't need to go back to the BCS.
You like the BCS more, bud?
USC and UCLA are moving to the Big Ten. They're going to be traveling all the way across the country for regular season games. So you can't tell me these guys can't pack it up and take it to friggin' Texas and play in Texas versus somebody from California. That is more neutral than anything.
Well, I think with them getting the bye, they may change the rules on that. I don't think it's been decided, but that's a lot on college football playoff. We've been doing the show for an hour. I have one more topic I want to touch on, and that's Mr. Albert Pujols is at 695 home runs. He's marching to 700. Wade thinks it's a conspiracy theory. He thinks it's staged.
Wade read a conspiracy theory. I'm still
Wait, I'm going with Wade
doesn't
thinks
like
it's a
that.
conspiracy theory. And after explaining it, explain the theory to us, Wade.
I saw kind of a page like ours, just an opinionated column, saying it's just kind of suspicious that Albert Pujols limped his way off the Angels, kind of got signed by the Dodgers as a feel-good story, and then even more of a feel-good story this year, re-signing with St. Louis. But he's 42. He had like 4 home runs at the All-Star break. MLB knew it was his final run, so they put him in the home run derby. He made it to the final. Like he actually put on quite a big show there. And then all of a sudden he's hit 12 home runs in the second half of this season. He is getting a little bit more playing time. They are playing him almost exclusively against left-handed pitching. So he's resting in situations where he wouldn't be hitting well anyways. But yeah, it's just kind of weird that out of nowhere, this guy's on the verge of a 20 home run season as he's closing in on 700 home runs. Do you think it's purely a momentum thing, an adrenaline rush for the old guy, or do you think that it's a little bit staged where pitchers are grooving him fastballs? He might be taking some sort of, I don't know, some
I think it's
supplement.
staged. He may be taking some PEDs.
I don't know.
I don't think he's taking anything, but I think it's staged. But only when it's obviously the pitcher's going to try to get him out. But if it's a late in the game, they've either already won the game or the Cardinals are dominating them. I think they throw him a meatball, and because it's Albert Pujols. I mean, he's one of the game's all-time greats. You want to see him get to that 700 mark. That makes him I think if he gets to 696, he passes A-Rod or his tie A-Rod.
One more to tie A-Rod, 2 more to defeat A-Rod.
Yeah, and then if he hits 700, that makes him number 4 on the list.
I think so.
Yeah. So,
but do you think it's coming from a league level, like they're being told to, or do you think it's like a player unspoken rule?
I think it's an unspoken rule. I think baseball's
then it's
all
not
about
really
unspoken
rigged.
rules.
It's just kind of like a gift.
I don't think it's
I mean,
staged. I think that's just a bunch of hoopla.
Do you think that? I mean, honestly, do you think Jacob deGrom is going to hurt his ERA by giving Albert Pujols a freaking?
Okay, I'm not saying starting pitchers. I'm talking late in the games. If the game's already over,
if the game's over, I get it.
Or throw him a meatball. Hey man, it's Albert
Then
Pujols.
again,
I think you just explaining St. Louis is getting a little momentum.
Then again, it's baseball. I mean, sure, you can throw one down the middle, but he's still going to hit it. And how old is Albert? I mean,
he's 42. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, he's not exactly a young buck.
He's going to be dominating the beer league softball leagues come next year.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that.
I like Albert Pujols. It's hard for me to buy into the theory that's rigged, but I do think it's kind of suspicious in the timing that he literally looked done in LA, and now he's honestly, if he's not ready to retire, I would sign him back as the DH next year. I mean, he's probably a top. I know there's only 15 teams in the NL, but the NL teams are still kind of getting used to the DH thing, right? But I would say he's a top 10 DH in the NL. So, I mean, that's enough to get him a job again in St. Louis. I don't know. I just think it's weird that he's on the pace that he is, for sure.
Is it a mental thing, though? Here's my thing. He went back to the team that gave him his first chance in the first place. I mean, this is the team that signed him and gave him the opportunity. He went to LA. Was there a lot of pressure being in LA?
Oh, absolutely.
And then coming back, the pressure's off of him. He's just out there. I can look at him and tell him, I can see that he's
more relaxed. He's back at home.
He's having more fun. And I think that helps you physically too. Your mind's at ease. You're not tense. No, I mean, I really like the guy.
Slow, so he's trying to hit a home run every time he steps.
Yeah, it's kind of like that phenomena. You have going back to school days. You had 2 weeks to get something done, and then you wait until the Sunday before.
You just rock.
You're able to crank it out.
Procrastination. Let's go.
He sees the deadline.
What are the Cardinals? Where are they at in playoff race?
They're winning their division.
Yeah, so I mean, he's like, you know what? I'm just going to roll up here. I'm just going to start cranking bombs. We've got the division in first place. Might as well.
I have a future bet on them to win the World Series, so I'm here for it.
I'd like to see him hit that 600 mark, or I'm sorry, 700 mark. Just it's a feel good story. It's Albert Pujols. We all grew up watching him. Yeah,
I think he's going to end up at 699.
Yeah, that's gonna suck. Yeah, and then he's just gonna torch the playoffs, just hitting home runs every game.
He's already there if you count.
Does the number continue in the playoffs? Because if it is, it's a lot. It doesn't.
Regular season.
He's already there career-wise if you include the playoffs.
It's gonna happen. He has a month to do it.
I have a interesting theory. I think I was there when he hit his last home run before going to the majors. I was at the game. So
minor league Albert Pujols.
Yes.
The Redbirds.
Long time ago. But I feel like I should be there when he hits 700.
Let's get you to the game.
I need to be in St. Louis.
You're going to move to St. Louis for the remainder of the season.
No, it's going to be like one of the road games where they're in San Francisco and he's going to drive all that way.
Our network has got a very large presence in the Philadelphia area. That's a lot closer to St. Louis than Mississippi is. So let's see if maybe somebody knows somebody and has some tickets. They can reach out and get Futch.
Somebody hook me up with some tickets so I can see 700.
I mean, we need Futch at the game. He saw the first one. We need him to see 700. It's only right. But hey, Home Depot, if you're listening, give the man the weekend off. Let him go to the game. Maybe sponsor him to go to the game. Who knows?
Yeah, I got a couple of Saturdays off upcoming, so maybe I should forego the college football and head up for some baseball.
Hey, college football will always be around. Go ahead and take a trip up to St. Louis. Try to plan it out right. Hey, reach out to Albert Pujols. Tell him to hold off on 700.
Hey, Albert Pujols might be around forever. He might be the Moses of baseball. I mean, that's where we're going.
Yeah. Well, that pretty much wraps up all of our topics for this week. We've got week 2 kicking off. If you want more in-depth analysis on week 1 and week 2, check out College Football Coast to Coast, hosted by Tyler and Jacob. And then we have a comment from my dad actually asking, why are we talking about Michigan? I want to hear about the SEC. Well, Dad, if you want to hear about the SEC, tune in tomorrow night to Tyler and Wade's show, Southeast Sports Talk, where they break down every SEC game and the games going forward. We're treating Sports Scramble going forward now as like a debate show, like I mentioned at the beginning. So send in your questions, send in your hot takes. Reach out to us on Twitter at Sports Scramble 4. Let us know what questions you want answered. And of course, like I mentioned before the show, we're now sponsored by Buffalo Bayou Brewery. If you leave us a review on iTunes, we'll in a few weeks we'll select one lucky reviewee and we'll send them a shirt once we're able to get that ironed out. So and hopefully sometime during the season or on World Series time, we'll be able to do a live show here in Houston and we can have all of our local fans come out and support us. Enjoy good food, good beer, and good views of the city. I don't know if y'all saw the picture I posted. The backdrop at Buffalo Bayou is unmatched. That was one of the reasons I was like, we got to get these guys. They know how to do it. They do it right. So, but yeah, I want to thank everybody for listening. Like I said, you can check out us. Check us out on Twitter, Sports Scramble 4. Subscribe to our podcast. We're live streaming right now to YouTube, Twitter, everywhere you can find a podcast. We'll eventually start up on Facebook. I just haven't gotten around to making the Facebook page. So I got to go cut my grass. It finally stopped raining here in Houston, so I need to get it done. But we hope everybody has a good Labor Day, and we'll see y'all next week.